So now let's get into what are the signs of emotional abuse. And again, it says emotional abuse centers around control, manipulation, and demeaning or threatening behavior. And it can be subtle or it can be overt and aggressive. First one is monitoring and controlling a person's behavior. So ladies, think of, and again, I won't give examples for everyone, but checking your husband's phone constantly, reading his emails, checking his internet history, telling him who he should and shouldn't hang out with, telling him how he should parent, and all the myriad of ways that we are controlling. Number two, threatening a person's safety, property, or loved ones. When you threaten divorce and you threaten taking the kids away, or you threaten going to your husband's mother, that's emotionally abusive. Being demeaning, shaming, or humiliating. I've had many clients share with me things like, I'm so embarrassed of how I treat my husband. I actually had a client tell me, yeah, at my worst, I'll tell my husband he's being like a chick on his period, making fun of your husband to your girlfriends and in your social circles, or making fun of him in front of his family or your family. And we do that with little comments where we think we're being funny and cute, but it's incredibly hurtful. Having jealousy and accusing your husband of wrongdoings that have no basis in reality. Delivering constant criticism and being ridiculing and teasing him. And we do know that we do that. Oh, are you going to wear that shirt? Oh, I really wish you wouldn't do that anymore. Oh, are you going to watch football again? Haven't you grown out of that? And we constantly criticize them for who they are and the things that they enjoy or the things that make them who they are. Making acceptance or care conditional on how on a person's choices. So this is often how we withhold sex as women. That if you're not going to do this, if you're going to continue to be this way, then we withhold sex. Or they do something to upset us, then we withhold sex. Refusing to allow a person to spend time alone. Oh my gosh, how many of us can admit to, our husband goes to play golf, or they go out with a friend, or they just go out and do something, and we're constantly blowing up their phone and constantly texting them. Or we throw temper tantrums when they want to go do something by themselves. So we strong arm them into not doing that. Thwarting a person's professional or personal goals. And how we'll complain if our husband's working too much because he's trying to get a promotion or he's trying to build his business. And we find ways to make them fail and thwart them from their goals, or tell them why they shouldn't have those goals. And then two more, instilling self-doubt and worthlessness, how much we make our husbands question themselves. And then gaslighting, making a person question their competence and even their basic perceptual experiences. So wonderful example of gaslighting and how as women we gaslight our husbands is they'll say, I think I shared this at the beginning, they'll say like, hey, I feel like I'm never right. You're always right. I feel like you never listen to me. I feel like you're never available and you're really busy. They'll tell us the things that are bothering them in the relationship. And our knee-jerk response is to tell them, that's not how it is. Let me tell you how you're feeling is wrong. That's crazy. That's not who I am. Ladies, that's gaslighting. When you dismiss your husband's feelings and his experiences in the relationship and make him feel like he's crazy for feeling that way, that's gaslighting, and it's emotional abuse. So those are the signs of emotional abuse. And what I want us to do as women is to connect the dots, that that's who we are in our marriages. And again, on a spectrum. And instead of fighting, no, that's not me. That's my husband's crazy ex-wife, or that's my husband's crazy ex-girlfriend. That's a deflection from yourself to not have to look at yourself. What I want you to do, and what I teach my students and my clients to do is, no, don't fight me to see these things in yourself. Look for how they're true. And how you can know they're true right off the bat is when you get defensive and triggered when I'm talking about these things. And you get really, really angry. We get defensive. We get angry because we're being shown the truth about ourselves. And it's our defense mechanism to deflect, to not have to look at ourselves, to not have to take accountability. That's a tool I actually use in my marriage, that when I feel defensive toward my husband because he's pointing something out that is a negative behavior in our relationship that he'd like me to change. If I get defensive, that's my number one sign that he's right. So I've trained myself that when that happens and I get defensive, I don't want to know that about myself. That's my cue to say, Karen, this is true for the women watching. If you feel triggered and pissed at me for what I'm saying and saying you're emotionally abusive as wives, that is your number one sign that this is true about you, because you wouldn't get defensive. You wouldn't get pissed. You wouldn't get triggered if these things weren't true. You'd be like, oh, that's interesting. You'd be curious about yourself and curious, like, ooh, maybe I should look at this, or, that's interesting. I don't feel that I do that, but you wouldn't get pissed and triggered. That's one of the best ways to know that there's truth in the things that I share. And I have had plenty of women come to me after watching some of my videos or reading something from me or hearing me speak somewhere. And they say, oh, I was so mad at you. I was so mad. But I knew that meant there was truth in what you were saying. So you want to lean into that. You want to lean in. It's not meant to make you bad and wrong that you're emotionally abusive in your marriages. What we have to recognize is we're emotionally abusive in our marriages as women because we're emotionally abusive to ourselves. I think, how am I emotionally abusive to myself? Think about how much time we spend criticizing ourselves and picking ourselves apart, whether it's our physical looks, whether it's our intelligence, whether it's being perfectionist and feeling like we never can do anything right, how hard we are on ourselves and how critical we are of ourselves, how we are constantly doubting ourselves and feel worthless, how we withhold from ourselves and don't give ourselves the things that we need to care for ourselves. We demean and shame ourselves. We're awful to ourselves. So what we have to understand is how we show up in our marriages with our husbands is a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. And when we have an unhealthy relationship with ourselves, then we project that and take that out on our husbands. It's just how we're wired. But when we can know that and we can build a healthy relationship with ourselves, that's the solution. That's the magic for your marriage. That there's nothing about your husband that needs to change. There's nothing about your marriage that needs to change. It's you that needs to change in your relationship with yourself.